I had the most wonderful audiology experience last weekend. My friend Nancy Schumann, who's a speech pathologist and an auditory verbal therapist in New Jersey, and I ran a support group for kids, middle school kids with hearing loss. There were 7 kids between the ages of 9 and 12, and they had moderate to profound hearing losses. Some of them had hearing aids, some of them had cochlear implants. And we did this as part of an IDA Institute project that I'm working on to help people learn how to run support groups for kids. And we needed to videotape a group of kids, and we got these kids together. Nancy and I were so high on how exciting this experience was that I didn't sleep on Sunday night. I was so excited about this group. The kids were amazing. They didn't know each other. They were all from different schools. They were all mainstreamed, and they all were the only kid in their school. And that's one of the things about mainstream kids is that they don't really have peers with hearing loss. They're by themselves. And that's a great thing because it gives them extraordinarily good language models, but they don't have a peer, and that's not a good thing. So we did this group, and we talked about what are the good things about having a hearing loss, and kids told all kinds of jokes about things that they could lip read, conversations that people were having that they weren't supposed to know about. They talked about how the teacher forgot to turn off the FM, and they found out things about the teacher's personal life that they're not supposed to know about, which they did tell the other kids in their class. So they were all kinds of funny stories. And then we talked about what are the hard things about having a hearing loss, and where are the problems that you have. And they talked about situations in which, some of the things we know, like swimming is really hard because you go swimming with your friends and your friends forget that you can't hear in that situation. And the one thing that didn't occur to anybody to think, it didn't occur to me to think about a lot beforehand, is sleepovers. They can't hear when they go to a sleepover because the lights are out and everyone's talking and they're by themselves. And we talked about what could you do to solve that problem. And, maybe flashlights. Everybody can have a flashlight that they hold in front of their mouth so you can lip read them. We talked about, how much hearing aids help and cochlear implants help and what are the situations in which they don't help. And the kids talked about how people don't understand that the hearing aid's not a perfect solution and that there are still a lot of times when they don't hear and when they need repetition, and how hard is it to ask for repetition. And what happens when you ask for repetition? And one kid talked about how her mom starts yelling at her after the 3rd time. And this is a mom I know, it's a great mom, who's done everything she could do for this kid. And, we started talking about what's it like as the hearing person who has to repeat. And these kids, it was just sort of like an aha moment. It had not occurred to these kids that this was a problem for somebody else. They saw it only as a problem for themselves, that they didn't understand. They didn't get that other people had a hard time also having to repeat. So, at the end of 2 hours, they didn't want to leave. And, we've just got an email from all the parents saying, when are we doing this again? Can we see the video? And I see this as support groups are such an exciting part of working with families that I know. I love it. Every time I do one, I just feel terrific about it. And and there's no question about what it does for the kids and the families because they all get contact with other people who are like them, which they don't get on an everyday basis.